Hey, everybody, welcome back to View from the Top podcast, where we help growth-minded men who desire momentum in their business, their family, and their finances get through their valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. I'm glad you listened in today. We have a pretty exciting episode. We're going to be talking about maybe the difference between adventure and experience, right? So each of us has a little different personality bent on this. Some of us are all about the adventure. Some of us are maybe more about the experience. And so you may be wondering today, man, like I have this sense of adventure all the time, but I miss out on some of the experience side. Or I'm all about the experience, and so therefore maybe I miss out on some of the adventure. We're going to dive into that today with Big A. So let's get him in the studio. Big A, welcome.
Wally, thanks, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
It's been a good day so far, man.
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain.
Here's well.
It's a good year. Well. It's shaping up nicely.
I know 2024. I'm glad 2023 is in the rearview mirror, and I'm pumped up about 2024. Man, there are so many opportunities opening up, so many chances that we're getting to interview new guys, having great conversations in the mastermind. I'm fired up. I've been having some great conversations with the guys in their group. We do something called Surge, and it is so fun to be able to go to these groups and really dive in, see what the guys need, what it is that I want to share with them. Communication is key in ISI. We got to have good communication. So I'm pretty amped up just coming off of Surge. It is good,
man. You did a great job. Good. It was fun. Sure, the guys appreciated that. Hey, this is a topic we're going to talk about today. Before we get started, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What's the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
Like, can I be incriminated for this? Like, if somebody gets this,
I don't know. Hopefully, you didn't kill somebody.
I didn't kill anybody.
Okay.
I could have. Sometimes I wished I had, but no, not really. Not really. You know what? What's the most dangerous thing that I've done?
It could have been. Maybe that's stupid too. Like, is there a difference?
I think it goes hand in hand.
It might. Could.
I think there's two things that stand out in my mind. So I had a buddy of mine named Frank Frankenbach, and he's a professional. Name. Yeah, Frank Frankenbach. Yeah. Frank was an unusual guy. Some of you guys may know him. If I haven't seen Frank in years, so if somebody hears his name and they know how I can get in touch with him, I'd like to do that. Frank was a professional fisherman, and he used to come in our business, and he invited me to go fishing with him over Percy Priest Lake, one of the two lakes here in Nashville. There's Old Hickory Lake and Percy Priest. And Percy Priest is not a lake I care for, but I agreed to go. And so I show up over at Elm Hill Marina, and I get out of the truck, and I said, Frank, do I need to bring any fishing gear or anything? He said, no, you don't need to bring anything. I got everything. Like, don't bring anything. I said, okay. So I go over there. It's probably 3 p.m, get out of the truck, walk down to the boat ramp. He's already got the boat launched. And I looked, and I knew the minute I got there, I was in trouble. There was a motorcycle helmet in each seat of this boat. And I went, oh, this is not good. So I got in the boat, and I looked down at Frank, and I've got a pretty fast boat. My boat will run in the high 50s. You know, I've had boats that have run in the low 70s, and I'm used to that. Well, Frank was notorious for having a jacked up boat. You know, I mean, the boat was just ridiculous. There's a bridge going over Percy Priest Lake called the Hobson Pike Bridge, and we went underneath that bridge at 109 miles an hour in an outboard. There was nothing in the water but the prop, 109 miles an hour. And I don't know that I've ever been so scared in my life, because the boat was porpoising back and forth. The nose was coming up a little, but if there'd been a little more chop or a little bit more nose lift, we would have wrecked. Frank was no virgin to wrecking. His upper and lower jaw was fake, where he had been blown out of the boat and hit the cowling with his face, and they reconstructed his whole face. And that's why he wore the helmets. I didn't know that until then. So, Wally, I'm going to have to say I wasn't even in charge of it, but that was probably the most dangerous thing I've ever done. Quick story, I was 17, Robin was 16. I bought a Yamaha 750 belt drive, and I got Robin on it. And during January of 1978, we went across the Cumberland River going into Old Hickory, and I was doing about 115 miles an hour, maybe 120.
With Robin on the back?
With Robin on the back, yeah. And we went around this curve. There's a real sharp curve at the base of the bridge, and my knees, my blue jeans was touching the street. Went around that curve. And this was during January. It was freezing outside. And those are probably the two of the most stupid, most dangerous things I've ever done. What about you?
Yeah. I'm not a huge, we're going to talk about this in the podcast today, but I'm not a huge adventurer. I like adventure, but I'm not a huge, like, you would think of adventure, like mountain climber. And I'm definitely more on the experience side. So most of my adventurous stuff has been really around stupidity. That's right. I mean, that's some years, right? So when I was younger, we lived in Watkins Glen, New York, and it's very beautiful, picturesque there. They have a number of gorges. So these are like areas where the water's carved out through the rock, and they're tight. So they may be anywhere from depending on where you go to see them and experience them, and they're all over the place. Some of them are cut much deeper than others, and so they're 15 feet wide to 100 foot wide. And they go really deep. Like some of them just go, 20, 30 feet deep. Some of them will go 100, 150, 200 feet deep down in the canyons. They're not canyons like as, Grand Canyon or anything like that.
Right.
But anyway, so there's these basically rock features, and there's water that runs down through them. And so I think we were like 11 or 12. It might have been 13, somewhere in there. And I don't know where my brother and I got this cockamamie idea that it was down behind our house, and it was about probably 120 foot, like waterfall drop off. And then we were going to climb up this thing. And we started, he bowed out. He's like, I'm not doing it. It's too crazy. So I kept going. Man, I got to the very top, and I went to take the step up on top of that final ledge, and my back foot slipped a little. And there was that moment of weightlessness that I felt, and my back foot caught, and I leaned forward, and I was okay. But in that moment, that's one of that dangerous thing that I did, like that would have been the end. I'd have been done.
Ooh, that's a long way down.
It was a long way down, man. I remember that feeling, and I've not been fond of heights ever since. Not my favorite thing.
That is so funny. You know what really... the reason that this topic is even today is one of our community members, Zach, he really prompted this question to us because we want all of you to know that we're trying to answer questions through some of these podcast interviews. So if you've got a question that you really like, hey, I'd like to know what Big A and Wally think about this, I'll be sure and submit it at the end. Wally will give you the email address. But he said, I catch myself in every conversation just talking about my profession. This is what Zach said. He said, do other men want to hang out with you if all you do is work? He said, I really enjoy experiences, but I'm not a big fan of crazy adventure. And so we thought we would talk to each, of you today kind of about that topic, and let's see what it is that we can discern between adventure and experiences. And I really can identify with Zach completely. I mean, when we talk about this, because I love personally different experiences. I'm not a huge crazy adventure guy either. I mean, that's just not what I do. I've got friends that do crazy stuff. I mean, they do insane
well, what's
stuff.
the difference? Let's just start off. Like, what is the difference between...
Well, experiences, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. We're going to define really you're getting ahead of me for a second.
Define it right now. Just tell what it is.
Well, adventure, first of all, is typically refers to a real unusual experience. Something that involves some degree of risk or uncertainty.
So you talked about your buddies. So their idea...
Oh, they do crazy stuff, though. I mean, they're jumping off of mountains, parasailing and hang gliding. And, Alan, my buddy, ran with the bulls, in Italy. He did that. And he did Mount Kilimanjaro and had bike wrecks at 60 miles an hour down streets. I even revealed a picture of him. He had road rash on about 80% of his body. It's like, what you got all this responsibility and these businesses and families counting on you, and you're out doing this crap, skydiving and doing safaris, with a blow dart gun or something. What are you doing? Like, that is crazy to me. Experiences, on the other hand, are kind of learning a new skill. You're trying out new foods, or you're visiting new cities, or you're enjoying some new conversation with somebody from a different culture. Or, you're experiencing people who are seeking to grow in their knowledge of something. It's like, yeah, I'm all about that, right? And I'll tell you where some of this come from. The reason that I think that I'm not real adventurous is because my dad was scared to death that the kids were going to get hurt. Mm. Well, I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but we couldn't have a swing set. My dad wouldn't allow a swing set. We had to be, I forgot how old before we got a bicycle, I did try to ride a tricycle up a sycamore tree one time, and I had to go get stitches in the back of my head. My dad said, that's it, no more tricycle, But stairs, things like that. We couldn't have a coffee table, and because we jumping on the couch, my dad goes like, you're going to fall off and hit your head on the coffee table and kill yourself, And so just he would pad the fireplace hearth, It was like, oh, man, you come running through there, you're going to, what I found out? Well, I'm embarrassed to admit this here we are on our own podcast. We used to leave Brooke and Holly with a babysitter, and I caught myself doing the same things, pulling the coffee table away from the couch. Mm-hmm. We would put towels on the hearth, it was like, what am I doing? We put a gate up in front of the stairs, and, Robin goes, my Lord, they're 14. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't want them to get hurt, And so I guess for me.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's like, okay, you got to let them grow up. They're getting engaged. I mean, well, what about you? I mean, are you more in alignment with the experiences? You kind of shared that just a minute ago a little bit, but what is the most adventuresome thing that you're willing to go do? I know you did something stupid as a 13-year-old, but like today as a 50-year-old responsible businessman, like I got a video. I wish we could post a video. I got a video of you I love. You went over a jump on your mountain bike, and I've never heard so much growling and groaning and clawing at the dirt.
It wasn't because of the jump. It was because of the crash.
It was the crash. Yeah. So what about you?
As you were talking, we were kind of prepping for this episode, and just as you were just talking just now, I kind of visualize in my head kind of like a thermometer. And I think at the bottom is experience. I think at the top is adventure. And I'm probably wrong on this, but as I love experiences, and I love a sense of adventure. So I'm willing to whatever that threshold is of heat, if you will, that goes between experience and adventure. Like I like to bump up against that for sure. I like
to get hurt, like physically. That's what I think about when I think about the risk of getting killed.
So it's like a danger meter, right? It's like how much danger is adventure or experience? Because you have a lot of experience inside adventure.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Right? You don't have a lot of adventure. Maybe you do mental gymnastics.
Inside of the experience. Yeah.
But you don't have a lot of adventure inside of experience. But yet both of them can be meaningful depending on your personality, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if one's better or worse than the other, but I know for myself, I like to hit that on experience. I like to bump up against that. You just mentioned the mountain biking stuff. I'm not going to go. I watch some of these guys go downhill and or do some of the stuff out west or even up in Canada and stuff. I'm like, that's not me. I'm not going to be doing that. But I love riding my mountain bike. And
I would too out here on my driveway.
Well, no, I'm not that.
I'm not going.
I'm not that adventure adverse.
We were at Blue Sky, Montana, and they're riding those bikes down the Black.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah, those front forks are jacked way out there, and that's just crazy.
Yeah. They hit one little rock, and it's, the fat lady sung. It's over.
Yeah. So that's not me. I'm not about that level of danger in my adventure, but I'll bump up against it. I like a little bit of that excitement. Like for example, like I'm maybe a roller coaster kind of person, right? Where experience, you get a little bit of that wooziness, a little bit of that take your breath away, a little bit of that adventure, but I'm on tracks. Right? Like I don't see being tethered to a rope hanging off a mountain as the same level of safety or lack of danger as that. But that's me. I'll bump up against it, but I'm not gonna I see some of these guys do all kinds of crazy stuff out there, and I respect them for it. That's just not
I don't know if respect is the right word.
I do. I respect them. I'm like, hey, I respect you.
I don't know. I'm not there yet. So what are some of the things that you think draw adventurous people out in their preference over like these experiences? Do you think it's personality types? I do think a lot of it has to do with the way you were raised. I look back at some people. I've got one of my son-in-laws, not the one that you were talking about. Those that don't know, Wally's brother is married to my daughter. He's the one that chickened out on the going up the gorge.
He was probably smart. He was the smart one.
My other son-in-law, his dad raised him on four-wheelers and motorcycles and crazy stuff. And he'll go out there, which scares me to death because he's taking care of three of my grandkids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a constant worry for me. But different personality styles, maybe. I think that for some people, though, that it's a desire for escape and change. When you really start thinking about what is it that you're doing, like a couple of my buddies, for example, very successful businessmen, own companies, they do really well, but they're looking to kind of escape the normalities of their day. They're like, man, you know what? I'm behind a desk all the time. I'm ready to go out here and do something adventurous. And so they go out and do all these kind of things. And some people are just drawn to that because it's out of their normal routine. They're like, life is too predictable for me every single day, and I want to do something to kind of mix it up. I do respect that. I do understand that. I think that we should do some things to kind of mix it up a little bit sometimes. You know, it's funny. I was playing golf with a bunch of guys in Florida.
Golf is not adventurous.
No, what I was going to say, though, let me finish my story.
I was getting that out there.
So we were playing golf, and there was a guy named Brad, young guy. He was probably 18, 19 years old. He was with us. And he looked off in the bottom below the tee, and the tee box, and he said, look at all those golf balls out there. There was like hundreds and hundreds of golf balls in this marshy area. And he goes, man, I'd give anything to get those golf balls. And I said, come on, Brad, I'll go with you. And so he goes, what? I said, let's go get them. One of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. So we get down there, we take our golf shoes off, I roll up my pants leg, and we start going out. And it was okay. It was a little bit muddy on our feet, you know. We get out there to where the most of the golf balls were at, and I sunk like up to my, just my thighs. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I looked around at Brad, and he sunk up further. It was like to his crotch. I mean, he was up in mud. And I was like, he's sinking, like he's leaving me. And I reach up and grab him, and we're both stuck. And I finally get out, and it was like I was a mess. Well, man, I kept pulling, finally got him out. And he said, Big A, if you had been with me, I'd have disappeared. Like I'd have went down in that crap. That's the reason all the golf balls were there. Nobody was willing to go out and get them. But I'm like, you know what, though? We still laugh about that. We don't talk about the golf. We talk about that experience, right? It was... There was also crocodiles and alligators and snakes and all kind of crap. I find out later.
Right? Is that
that's
right?
down there. Yeah, we're down there. And I'm like, I look back now and think, oh my gosh, what in the world? But we still laugh about that, right? And so it's adventure really breaks you away from the norm of your everyday. You know, you need to do something radically different sometimes. Maybe it doesn't have to be dangerous, but I think that you need to really think about that and bump up against it. I like your verbiage when you said, I like to bump up against it. It's enough exhilaration that keeps you interested, right? But it's not something that's so crazy that you're like, hey, you could die. Like I tell my buddies, I say, y'all got a lot of responsibility. I mean, you got these families and grandkids and, in your business. And it's like, do you never think about that? And they're like, yeah, they'll be all right. And they just go right on. But when you start thinking about experiences, there's also other personality traits that maybe could have some risk-averse features. They're like, I told my mom the other day, we were talking about a situation. I said, when I was younger, like I was all in. I'd push all the chips in. I'd roll the dice. And as I get older, I'm more risk-averse. I'm like, that's my personality. It's more protection, right? I'm 63 now. And so it's a time for me to play it a little closer to the vest. So
Which
I think
is
you
natural.
think through those things.
That's natural and appropriate, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. You're like, hey, I need to be a little more cautious. But I do still like varied experiences. I still like things that, involve a little more physical activity as I get older. I need to do some things that are more physical.
We're gonna get a rash of we welcome them, by the way. A rash of comments.
You welcome them. They comment to me negatively about things you hammer me.
We're gonna get a rash of comments about how to make golf adventurous, because I'm sure there's guys out there. Because I made the statement of golf isn't adventurous, and you turned it into getting eaten by crocodiles almost kind of a thing. So I guess it can be, which is interesting because I think I talked about bumping up against something and about bumping up against adventure.
Yeah.
And then when I heard you talk, I was like, you know what? That's really true. That idea that we can take it too far in either direction. There's a healthy, if you're focused on experiences, there's a healthy measure of experience where you actually should, right, lean into some adventure during your experiences. And then if you don't, and you just always risk adverse completely about everything, and you want just to, so that's not healthy either. I don't think we're designed that way. And on the adventure side, you can go crazy and not be responsible at all and just do crazy stuff. Or maybe it's even to your point of you're in an unhealthy place trying to escape something, right? Business is an easy one where you could be trying to escape some challenges you're having in your business. They're not going to go away, right? You're going to have to address them. And trying to get that going crazy out there with some crazy adventure in a dangerous way, thinking that somehow that's not going to solve for that. I think in our marriages, the reality is that you've been married, 40 plus years. I'm 30 plus, and we both know, if we're honest, there's seasons. I would say that, I think we've worked harder at times than others to be intentional about not making them monotonous. But there's seasons where our relationship is kind of just status quo, in our marriages. And if we're not thinking about that in an intentional, correct way, that laziness of our mindset, and when we think about our wives, whatever that situation is, there could be some temptations that come up that we start to seek some adventure, right? In an unhealthy,
in the wrong places,
lustful way, right? In the wrong places. That just because of our situation that we're in for what seems like forever when you're in it, but it's really a short period of time. And so, man, there's, I think, healthy and unhealthy ways to approach either one of these things, for sure, both adventure and experience.
Wally, something I found out over the course of those 45 years of marriage, this just happened back in December. Robin and I took a cruise, and we were going to get off one of the islands and do an adventure to go up and to see the countryside. And Robin goes, I'm not going on that. And I said, yeah, we are too. I'm buying the tickets. We're going. She goes, I'm not going on that. And I said, yeah, we are. And I bought the tickets. And she's pleading, no, let's don't go. I don't want to go. And I said, yeah, we're going to go. So we go out, and I'm thinking we're going to get on a big Greyhound bus, air conditioned, and and that's what I envisioned in my mind. Well, we get in an open air bus that was like bench seats, that was like, and she looks at me like she could kill me at any moment. And I said, come on, Robin. I started laughing. So we get in the back of this thing. We're going down the road, and we hit a pothole, and I think she lost a kidney. I mean, it was terrible. We get up into the country, and we get stuck in mud. They had to take us off. They had to back up because it started raining. And I am laughing. She's not laughing then. But now we've gotten back. We got a few months behind us. And it's one of the stories that she's telling. Like, she didn't tell about the $1 million $1 million boat we were on and the fancy meals. She's telling everybody she almost lost a kidney hitting a pothole. There's a sense of adventure. We did that in Yellowstone. We had to stay in this $30 a night cabin with, a can to use the bathroom in and pieces of log to go in the stove. And I'm like, Robbie goes, what are we doing? We stayed in the finest rooms you can get. And we talk about, we slept in our clothes because we got so far away from our Airbnb, we could say. But my point is there's a level of adventure that really is exciting.
Those are the things that create memories.
They do, and we still laugh about them.
It's not just knowledge. Experience. You mentioned before the difference between like adventure and experience, right? And we talked about adventure a bit, but experience, learning a new skill, trying new foods, visiting new cities, things like that. And I think those are experiences I enjoy too. But by themselves, like the memories are pretty flatline. Yeah. Right? Yeah, unless you add some adventure.
A little adventure, it's like some fun. The spontaneity.
The Interact RV, the company that that I founded and used to own for years, I struggled with how do we have like a mission for a business that creates websites and does marketing for RV dealerships? like why in the world would I want to get out of bed every morning? Like, how is that? How do I galvanize that amongst our team members? And like, how do I do that? How do you do that? So for years I struggled with this. And finally, I think it was an act of God. He gave it to me. And he gave it to me because I started doing the thing. I started RVing. We bought an RV and started traveling with our kids, our daughters. And so here we are. We became the end customer. And when we did that, even though we weren't selling directly to them, we were kind of in the middle. What I discovered was, man, at the end of the day, what we were doing is help. Because here's the thing, when you go camping at all, RVing or camping, you ask anybody that's been RVing or camping, very rarely, there's a very small percentage. Most people, vast majority of people, have a really terrible story about camping or a really awesome story about camping. Mm-hmm. There's hardly anybody that never has, that's like, oh yeah, it was okay. Normally it's because they just went and like slept overnight and nothing happened and they came home, and that's not most people's experience with camping. What I discovered was what we were actually doing was we were creating memories that were to be told around the Thanksgiving dinner table for generations.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened if we only had experiences.
Right. Right. There needs to be a level of adventure.
Yeah.
Robin said that she'll go camping as soon as I buy that Mercedes Sprinter van. She said, as soon as you buy that, we'll go. Why does it even matter anyway? I was thinking about that. I was like, why does it even matter? Well, if you really think about it, it helps you identify what makes you feel most alive. There's a sense of fulfillment that we need. We need to be engaged in life. And we got to think about these things. Like, am I this adventurer? Am I a guy that likes experience? Can I mix the two? Like, because it matters. Like, if we just went on that cruise and we came back and nothing exciting out of the ordinary happened, like, it'd be a pretty bland story. It would be much to talk about. It's like, yeah, it was a beautiful ship and we saw beautiful water and had great meals and it was fun. But no, man, we got up in the country and we got stuck in mud, and she had her new tennis shoes on. She could have killed me. I think it cost me $200 for some new tennis shoes. But anyway, we had to get off in the mud, and it was like, man, that is so much fun, to the spontaneity, right? To do things outside of your normal daily activities, to give a little spice, keep the adventure. And I'll tell you, I know this is not a marriage podcast about today, but the truth is we need that adventure in our marriages. 45 years or 1 year, we need to do things to create these memories and these conversations, these experiences. We need to keep it spiced up. You know what's funny is when we're dating, we do all that stuff. We're like, oh yeah, let's go. And then we get married. And we're like, no, let's sit at home and watch TV tonight. It's like, no, man, let's play some cards. The other night, I said, Robin, I don't want to watch TV. She goes, let's play cards. And I'm like, okay. So we had fun. We were betting each other. It was like, oh, I'm going to beat you. She killed me too. But anyway,
I know, Big A. You just said that. Yeah, you just said that, like, we're taking adventure down to card playing. You must be old.
Yeah. Well, I didn't tell you the whole story. I can't repeat the whole card game.
Oh, there was more.
It can go into adventure.
That's great.
It can go into adventure.
That's awesome.
But listen, some of the other reasons, I think, too, it's the well-being and the mental health aspect. Like, we can't live just a mundane life. We've got to go out there. We've got to, seek a little bit of adventure. Some of it may be too much, and you've already identified, and I have too, what we're willing to do. But just think through what it is you're willing to do. What is it that can help you add a little spice, that you can have fun? You can enjoy your life, right? It doesn't have to be just that.
You mentioned about our marriages. I also think and you mentioned about the way that, you grew up and things. Man, I think it's important. I can look back and think I could have done that better with my daughters growing up. There definitely could have been more times where I could have created, not just, I was all about the experience. I was all about teaching and learning, and right. And I think you were too. And I definitely look back and go, man, I
missed some of that.
Yeah. I could have created some more opportunities and layered in some adventure. We did, but I look back and go, man, like, I don't get a second shot at that, right? We don't. We get one shot at raising our kids. And so I would encourage you all with your relationships, whether that's your kids, your wife, your team relationships, your employees, people at work. Like, man, those are the things you're going to remember. Experiences are great and important because they create knowledge, right? But adventure creates memories.
You know what else is cool is some of these things that are hobbies that you do for fun can turn into a neat career path. I know I've got some friends, Nate and Kara. You know, they've done just an incredible job with their business. They've taken it on the road and they've been to, I think, 87 countries around the world now. They have millions of bloggers and followers and people that are, you know, constantly interacting with them. They have a big sponsorship now as a result of it. So something that was fun, that was adventuresome for them, they've made a career out of it. So
Nick Kennett, Nick Kennett's in ISI.
Nick Kennett in ISI. He
and his wife took a year off and traveled and he had a marketing job.
Look what he's doing now.
Corporate marketing job.
He's killing it.
Yeah. He took that and he's leveraged his experience into their adventures. And it's exciting to watch.
You know what's cool with him too is that he's teaching some other guys within ISI how to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Which is really cool. So he took something that was an adventure, turned it into a business, and now he's mentoring, teaching other people. Listen, thank you today for checking us out related to this thrill of adventure versus the richness of experiences. I want you to think through for you why it even matters. Understanding whether you lean towards adventure or experiences is crucial as it affects your overall well-being. There's some personal development that can go with this. There's some life satisfaction that you can have as a direct result of it. So that's the reason that we wanted you to think of it. It helps you to really make informed lifestyle choices, really makes you think about managing risk appropriately. Don't get out into a boat if there's a motorcycle helmet sitting in the seat. Just a word of caution as you go forward. And this self-knowledge really empowers you to pursue what you truly mean to do, what really fulfills you. And then always, we want you to pay attention because we want you to have that view from the top.
Thanks so much for listening in today to Big A and I as we kind of talk through the difference between adventure and experience. And I truly hope that you're able to take something away. And maybe if you're on the experience side and not experiencing much adventure, maybe you bump up against that in the side of that temperature, up against some adventure and get that. And maybe if you're over exaggerating on the one side, you come back down. While you're on that adventure or that experience, I want to invite you to check out Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. We have some really cool things going on in 2024 that you're not going to want to miss. And what I mean by that especially is that we have some new events that we have put together for 2024. We tested them out at the end of 2023. We have 2 events that are typically in Nashville, one in the spring and one in the fall. And we'd love to have you attend one of those. We've also added what we call some local roundtables that may actually be in your hometown. So I would encourage you to go out to viewfromthetop.com/events and check that out and see if that's something that you might be interested in to attend. And maybe you could get some around guys that maybe you're more on the experience side, maybe more on the adventure side. And as we talked about in last week's episode, you can get involved in a group of guys that you can align with, that you can belong to, and they can help you either get more adventure in your life or maybe tone it down a bit and get some more experience. So we hope to see you there. Viewfromthetop.com/events. We'll see you next week.